People are a trip. Now, man, this makes me crack up, and this is a story that I've never told on this channel, and I don't even know how deep I'm going to get into it today. But suffice it to say, right, that I woke up in the middle of the night, and I saw that there was a text message on my phone, right? And look, man, when you're bad Brad and you've had the wild friends and stuff that I've had in the past, you sleep with your phone off, right? It's by your bed, but, and now I've got Ace driving me nuts. Come here. So Ace wanted to join me for this story. He won't let me sit and just tell a story, but here's the deal. So I wake up in the middle of the night and I see that there's a text message, right? And I kind of casually look at it and I thought, what is this? And I didn't recognize the number, but it turns out that one of the singers. Now let me give you some backstory, right? I worked for a time for a band that was hired guns, right? Here's the deal, man. Let me tell you a little something about Nashville. Nashville is a place where, unless you're playing like a showcase for a label and playing like original material or whatnot, and even sometimes in those kind of situations, you might not rehearse at all, right? There is no rehearsal. You're expected, if you're playing on Lower Broadway, you're expected to know a certain amount of songs, right? You're expected to know certainly, and I would hope that, everybody that watches my channel knows how to play Sweet Home Alabama. Everybody that watches my channel knows how to play Superstition. Everybody that watches my channel knows how to play, these standard like songs that everybody plays, right? And playing in a wedding band in Nashville. Now, there are certain wedding bands, it seems the younger generation, where they've got the same members in the band and they play each weekend. And so that allows a certain amount of, we know what's going to happen, and we know who's on stage and we know what songs they know and all of that. But, then there's other bands, and it's more like the older bands that I played with. It's like back in the day, you used to call them casuals, right? I played casuals. And casuals would be gigs where you wore a tuxedo. I don't know why they call it a casual when you wear a tuxedo, but you'd show up in a tux and you'd be expected to play real book tunes and, standards and, whatever, just stuff that everybody knows, right? It's a casual, but, I think back in the early days, a casual was literally like, any tune in the real book could get called. And there is, the thing about Nashville is you may find yourself on any gig all of a sudden playing with people that you don't know. And I would say that happens down on Lower Broadway. It happens more often than you think. And I know people, if you don't live in Nashville and you're, living in a town and you've got your band and your set guys and everybody gets together and rehearses, once a week or twice a week and then go play your gigs on the weekend. That's totally different than Nashville. Nashville, you're supposed to be able to get together with random people, kind of like a jazz lab in college where they'll go, okay, here's our groups for today. And they mix up a bunch of names and here, you get these guys and you get this guys. And that's the other thing. I played in a band where there was a band manager and, any time you would play, they might have 3 bands going that night. There might be 3 bands with the same name playing that night. And, and it's all under the umbrella of the name, right? And so a lot of times what they'll do is they'll take like some of the best players will get divided up and sent, okay, you're going to go be sent to this location. And there'd be locations like Belmead, Belmead Mansion, or there'll be, Franklin, Country Club. And then somebody might be at, I don't know, now, of course I can't, Tennessee State Museum. That would be one. And in fact, this story that I'm building up to, I believe we were playing the Tennessee State Museum. I believe that's what it's called. But here's the deal, man. If somebody's going to rent the Tennessee State Museum, that is a high dollar gig, right? That is a big gig. But here's the thing. I would get, chosen to be band leader on a gig. Why? Because I'm a veteran. I know a lot of players. I know how to lead a band. I've led bands before. And I know how to call tunes. And I can also sing if I have to sing, And so I would be a band leader. A couple other guys would be band leaders. And the band leaders would sometimes all be on the same gig together would now be, okay, you're going to go lead a crew over here. The other guy that's, an essential guy is going to go lead a crew over here. And, crew's going to be led over here by another band leader. And so you have to have a large list of musicians. The band manager would have all of these numbers, different positions. You would be 4, 5, 10 deep in a bass players. You'd be 10 deep in guitar players. But here's the thing, right? As far as like male lead singers, and this was largely a band that would play a lot of R&B, some classic rock, but mostly like R&B classics, Motown, all of that stuff. And you would generally have a male and female singer. Now, it seemed like we had more female singers than we had male. If there was a male R&B singer, and you'd say, well, how come you have such a hard time finding singers? Well, the reality is that, there's plenty of people that can sing in life, right? There's a lot of people who have the talent to sing. But if you don't know tunes and you can't lead a band, doesn't matter if you have a good voice. And there would be people like that, here's the thing. You'd be multiple people deep in every position, right? And there were times where like, oh man, we need a male lead and we don't have any male lead. The band manager would call me, what are we going to do? We don't have a male lead. And then we'd start thinking about instrumentalists, people that played drums or played guitar that we knew could also sing, and could we pull them off of? I remember there was one guy, he was an R&B drummer, right? But I knew he also had a pretty good voice and could sing a few songs. So I said, hey, he's a good looking guy. Get him off the drum set. Let's put him on the mic, and we had to do that because you needed somebody to fill that slot right now. He didn't know a ton of tunes, but we had enough people in the band. We were strong enough in other positions where it didn't matter, right? We only needed him to sing 4 or 5 songs, and everybody else could sing 4 or 5 songs, and the female lead could carry a lot of it, and we could get through the night. And the same thing goes with other instruments. Look, in Nashville, there's a lot of guitar players, but are there a lot of guitar players that can do those R&B corporate type gigs? Here's the thing. It comes down to feel with that style of music and people being comfortable with your groove and all of those things. But, other instruments like say trumpet, right? You might only have 2 or 3 regular guys that you can call. And then you'd be struggling. The band leader would be calling me, hey, I'm having a tough time getting a trumpet for your gig that you're leading on this date. Do you have any ideas? Yada, yada, yada. And here's the other thing, leading this band, a lot of times I would it might even be a last minute decision. Hey, I'm going to pull you off of this gig that I've got you on with so-and-so because we've got another gig and I need you to go lead this crew over at this location. And so you go, okay. And you have to, I'd say, okay, well, who do we got? Who do I have on this gig? Because I have a mental note of, well, if I've got this certain bass player, I know that he knows a ton of tunes. But this certain keyboard player doesn't know a ton of jazz tunes, so that's gonna be tough if we have to play a long dinner set. And then I've got this singer that does a ton of songs, so we're good there. And here's the thing. There's people that are first call, right? There's people that are second call. There's people that are third call, and go on down the list. But as you get further down the list, you start getting into uncharted territory. And oftentimes, even if I'm the band leader on the gig, I didn't put together the band. I'm given a hand of cards. Here's your hand. And I have to play the cards as best I can. So when I woke up this morning, 3:30 in the morning, and saw that I had a message, what I had gotten was forwarded a Facebook post from a musician that was still bitching and moaning about being on one of those gigs with us. And he had totally bombed the gig. I mean, so much so that the stress of it and all of that, I was just riddled, tired the next day. Everybody had to work twice as hard to fill the space that this guy wasn't doing. He didn't wear the right clothes. He couldn't play any of the standard songs. The one song that he was given, here's the deal. An email will go out. It will say, here is where the venue is. It will have a list of everything. Here is the venue. Here is the address. Here is what you are supposed to wear. Here is the special song that you're going to have to play. And I'll probably even have to do another one on this. And here's the deal, man. This guy didn't do the basic stuff that even if you said, oh, well, you guys didn't rehearse or nobody gave me a song list. The one song that we gave him, he didn't learn the trumpet part. He didn't learn his part, right? He showed up not wearing the right clothes. The dress was all black with tuck shirts and black tie, black tie. And he shows up wearing like K-Swiss sneakers and khakis. And the one song you were given, you didn't learn the horn part, right? But there I am. And dude, this has been it's been over a year, right? It's probably been about a year and a half. And here's this guy ragging on the band in a post. And granted, I haven't played with this band in over a year. But there he is ragging on the band saying, the band doesn't rehearse and I didn't get a song list. And I don't know why this band is called, like it's some elite name. The band has a name it's like an elite band name. And I don't know why it's called this name because, they don't rehearse and all that. Let me tell you something, man. Do you think all of the bands down on Lower Broadway rehearse? No, chances are somebody on that bandstand is going, hey, oh, hey, dude, nice to meet you. Yeah, cool. Yeah, I've heard you were really good. Blah, 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 blah. We found ourselves in a situation where we needed a trumpet. And the sax player that night had said, hey, I got a guy. Yeah, I'll call my guy. And it called this guy. And this guy had probably said, oh, yeah, man. Yeah, I want a gig. Yeah, man, can you get me on some gigs? Not realizing what it really entails, what it takes to do that kind of gig. You're going to need to be able to play the head on several jazz songs, just random called out. If you're a horn player on a gig like that, and I call all of me, you better be able to play the head. If I call Girl from Ipanema, you better be able to play the head, just like I better be able to play the chord changes. If I call, during the dance set, if I call Superstition and you're a horn player, you better be able to play the horn part to Superstition. It's a standard, right? But here I am, a year and a half later, seeing this guy's butt hurt about this gig. Now, what should this guy do? If he blew up this gig, he should just forget about it, right? Forget about it. And he should have gone home and says, man, I wasn't prepared for this gig. And he should have gone home and learned those parts, right? And then maybe called up and apologized. Hey, I didn't realize what you got, what I needed for this gig. But here's the other thing that he should have done. If he saw that he knew there was no rehearsal because you were just given basically instructions to go to the gig. Here's where the gig is. You show up. Here's your clothes. Here's the special song, right? So he knew there was no rehearsal. And if he was concerned about a song list, then he should have immediately replied to the email, hey, what's the song list? What do you guys play? That's the first thing I ask if somebody were to book me on the gig. Send me the song list, right? Unless it's me leading a gig or hiring the guys I know and knowing what they're going to call. I already know what I need to know to play those type of gigs. I already knew all those songs. And anything that I didn't have memorized, I could pull up, on an iPad, random jazz songs and play the chord changes, right? But man, and here's the other thing. The other horn player pulled up horn charts of these songs, but he wasn't able to read the parts. So there's another layer to this, right? He wasn't able to read horn parts. He wasn't able to play standard parts. No, look, there's plenty of guys that can't read single notes, maybe not horn players. But would I want to spend a whole gig reading single note parts? No, absolutely not. But most horn players can read a horn chart. That's just what they do, right? And the other horn player pulled up a horn chart. Here's Brick House. Couldn't play the trumpet part for Brick House. I mean, we're talking, what is it, a three-note part? And the one song that he was given beforehand, he didn't learn the horn part to that. I had to basically light the horn section up, not single him out, but just tell them, look, man, we did run through the special song at sound check. And I had to tell the horn player, I said, look, you guys are off. This is the most important thing you're going to do all day. I want you guys to go somewhere and figure this the F out. because this is the most important thing you're going to do today. Playing someone's special song at a wedding, you do not mess that moment up. That's like the red light comes on in the studio and you're on a master session with the A team of studio players. You don't mess that up. You might make mistakes throughout the night. You might, have some gaffes. That can happen. But man, it's like everybody is focused on, here's the other thing. It's going to be recorded for posterity. It's going to be video footage, everything. So those guys went and got that as close as they could. But here it is, a year and a half later, and this guy is still pointing the finger at us like we didn't prepare him for this gig. It's not my job as a band leader to prepare you for the gig. And look, if you can't play the standard songs that everybody else plays that plays your instrument, then no level of, if you think if I'd have given this guy a list of 30 songs that he would have showed up prepared, he didn't even show up wearing the right shoes, and he didn't learn the one song that he did get beforehand. He didn't even listen to it. So here's the deal, man. What should this guy have done? He should have called up the band manager and apologized profusely and said, I'm really sorry. I didn't realize what you guys did. I didn't realize I needed to already know these songs. Can you give me a list of these songs and I will take my own time and I will learn these parts and I'll send you a clip of me playing them. And I hope that we can chalk this up to a learning experience. And I'm gonna, next time, if you call me again, and look, here's the reality. They may never call this person again. But tell the band manager, if you call me again, I will be prepared. I will learn this stuff and I will be prepared if you give me another chance. But no, this guy is still a year and a half ago. He could have just gone away and we would have forgotten about it. But he's still on social media, butthurt about doing a crappy job on a gig. Playing nothing the entire night. I should have just told him to get off the stage. That's what I wanted to do. That's what young Bad Brad would have done, is to get the fuck off the stage and quit wasting my time. But you know what? I knew here's the deal. The person that hired us for the gig paid for a certain amount of pieces to be on stage. And the guy occasionally tried to play something, but most of the night just stood there. And he didn't stand there moving to the music and having a smile on his face and realizing that he's on stage. He just stood there as a lump, right? Taking up a wide amount of space. And everybody else on that stage had to work twice as hard. The other horn player we had to work his ass off the whole night because we couldn't pass any solos to the trumpet. And it made it harder on everybody. I was literally riddled the next day, having the stress of all that, of having somebody up there who can't do anything, wasted. It would have been better off the guy not even being there. But here it is, all this time later, and this guy did not learn a single thing. He's still pointing the blame at everybody else but himself. People are a trip, man.